let's finally dive into the 5 manga you recommended me to read. This video was originally supposed to be a 100 subscriber special, but thanks to all of you, we absolutely blew past that milestone. Seriously, your support means the world. And a huge thank you to everyone who voted in the poll as well. There were so many great recommendations. If your pick didn't make it into this video, just know it wasn't for a lack of trying. Some of these titles were nearly impossible to track down, and a few were going for some pretty wild prices. But with all that being said, let's jump in and take a look at what you're reading and maybe discover a few series that I should be getting into as well. Art is one of the hardest mediums to critique. There are so many interpretations, so many approaches that it feels impossible to say there's ever a single right answer. And what happens when all of life's expectations are pushing you in one direction, but the thing that gives you purpose is something you know absolutely nothing about? Blue Period is a coming-of-age manga that dives deep into the world of fine art and into the search for meaning, identity, and the courage to pursue what you love. The story follows Yatoru Yaguchi, a high-achieving second-year school student who also happens to be a delinquent. He does well in school, but none of it brings him joy. His days are spent watching sports, smoking, and drinking with friends, and studying hard at home to meet his parents' expectations of getting to a safe, affordable college. Despite all of this, he feels completely empty. Everything changes when he stumbles upon a painting in his school art room, a piece so raw and honest that it shakes him awake. For the first time, he notices the colour in the world around him. The moment sparks something inside him, and he picks up a brush to create his first true piece of self-expression. It's rough, humble, and imperfect, but it's real, and it leads him to joining the art club. As he spends more time with the other students, Yatoru discovers a sense of purpose he's never felt before. He decides he wants to attend the Tokyo University of the Arts, Japan's most competitive art school, and that decision sets him on a completely new path. What really struck me while reading this is how much it mirrored my own life. We all remember that feeling at the end of high school, the pressure, the expectations, the fear of choosing the wrong path. I grew up playing music while everyone around me went into commerce, science, IT, and it made me feel a little ostracized, like I wasn't doing what I was supposed to do. Yatoru's struggle with expectations from his parents and friends felt incredibly real. The manga captures this beautifully through Yatoru's expressions, the look of someone pretending everything is fine even though he's not being honest with himself. But the moment he starts drawing, he comes alive. Those double-page spreads of pure bliss and excitement remind me exactly how I felt when I first started pursuing music. That spark, that sense of this is who I am is portrayed so well. The art in Blue Period is genuinely stunning. Every time Yatoru learns a new technique, you see his growth in real time. The series showcases so many art styles, still life sketches, oil paintings, charcoal, and it gives this whole manga a unique visual identity. As someone who's never studied art, I found myself learning alongside Yatoru about perspective, composition, and technique, which made the experience even more engaging. Thematically, Blue Period explores so much: self-discovery, identity, the joy and pain of creativity, the pressure to succeed, and that creeping feeling of imposter syndrome when you realize you're not as amazing as you thought, especially when you start comparing yourself to others. But the series gently reminds you that comparison isn't the point. The only person you need to impress is yourself. If you're enjoying what you're doing, that's what truly matters. I thoroughly enjoyed the first volume of Blue Period, and I'll definitely be continuing this series. Out of all the recommendations, this one honestly surprised me the most. I don't usually pick up this kind of shoujo manga. It's not the genre that typically reaches out to me, but I was generally shocked about how much I enjoyed this first volume. The Ayakashi Hunter's Tainted Bride is a historical supernatural fantasy romance, try saying that 3 times fast, set in a world filled with Ayakashi, yokai, demons, and clashing forces of light and darkness. The story follows Nanano, a young woman whose life is destroyed after an Ayakashi brands her with a demonic mark. Her family immediately deemed her as tainted and replaces her in an arranged marriage. Cast aside and forced into isolation behind a mask, she eventually crosses paths with Yako, the charismatic leader of a powerful Ayakashi hunting clan. Instead of being repulsed by her curse, he's intrigued by it. Their meeting pulls her into a world of supernatural danger, political tension, and an unexpected tenderness as she begins uncovering the truth behind her mark that ruined her life. It sounds like a lot, but the story pulled me in almost immediately. I'm already a fan of yokai and supernatural themes, and I love how this series leans into portraying the Ayakashi as terrifying demonic entities. Even with the few designs shown so far, they're striking, eerie, creative, and generally unsettling in the best way. The art is also a huge highlight. The manga uses large, spacious panels that give you time to soak in how beautiful the characters look, and it builds tension really well before releasing it with gorgeous double-page spreads. The character designs are sharp and complimentary, Yako with his confident expressions, sharp eyes, noble clothing and flowing hair, and Nanano with her softer features, shy posture, and the quiet sadness of someone who's been deeply hurt but still wants to believe in something again. Their contrast makes them feel instantly compelling together. The themes are present right from the start, and that's what had me most excited to continue. Yes, it's a romance complete with blooming love triangles, a jealous family member, and the classic charismatic male lead, but underneath that, the story's exploring stigma, shame, and reclaiming one's identity after trauma. Nanana goes through so much in the very first chapter. She's at rock bottom, too afraid to speak up for herself, hiding away in a shack with a mask covering her tainted mark. She's on the verge of giving up entirely, until Yako enters her life. Through him, she slowly begins to see value in herself again. The question is, will she find purpose by pleasing others, or will she finally choose something for herself? And what I love about Yako is he's not just a cool, collected hero. He's dealing with his own prejudices and inner demons too. Pairing these two broken, complicated characters together feels like the perfect setup for something meaningful. All in all, this was a fantastic first volume in a type of shoujo I don't normally read, but I'm absolutely continuing this one. The art, the world building, the romance, it's already hooked me. This was an amazing recommendation. This next recommendation is one I've known about for years but never actually picked up, and that is Barakmon. Even though it's an older series starting back in 2008, it's one of those slice of life manga that people always talk about with the kind of quiet fondness, and now I finally understand why. Barakmon follows Sesshu Hanada, a young calligrapher who takes enormous pride in his craft. After showcasing his work at an exhibition, the director criticizes his piece as mediocre. Hanada completely loses his cool and punches the old man, who can barely walk by the way, and as punishment he's exiled to a remote island. The idea is that he'll rediscover himself and the meaning behind why he creates art in the first place. The island's inhabitants are interesting to say the least. They embody that classic remote village energy, quirky, chaotic, and living life in their own rhythm, completely disconnected from the pace of the city. So when this proud, polished city boy arrives, you can imagine the kind of chaos that follows. From the moment Hanada steps off the boat, he's hit with a world that feels completely foreign. The dialect, the lifestyle, even the way people casually wander into his home. And that's where he meets Naru, a mischievous, big-hearted little girl who barges into his life at every opportunity. She disrupts his solitude, challenges his patience, and slowly becomes the emotional core of his island experience. As Hanada tries to reconnect with his roots and calligraphy, his interactions with the villagers begin to spark something inside him. He starts learning that there's joy in imperfection, in mediocrity, and in slowing down. Instead of striving to be the best, he begins to appreciate the small, quiet moments that make life meaningful. I'll be honest, when I first started reading, I wasn't sure how I felt. The English southern dialect threw me off, and Naru felt more annoying than endearing. But then it clicked. That's exactly how Hanada feels. He's an outsider dropped into a world that doesn't make sense to him, and we're meant to feel that discomfort. As he slowly opens up to the people around him, they open up to him too. And just like Hanada, I found myself warming to these characters, especially Naru, whose naive, joyful outlook on life becomes incredibly charming once you settle into the story's rhythm. The themes in Barakmon are surprisingly rich. At its heart, it's about redefining what it means to create art. The island forces Hanada to confront the differences between technical skill and genuine expression. His calligraphy is refined, yes, but it lacks emotion. As he embraces spontaneity, lived experiences, and imperfection, you can already see his art beginning to transform. This was a great first volume. I was resistant at first, but just like Hanada, I slowly opened myself up and let myself enjoy the little things, and that's exactly where Barakmon shines. Whoever recommended this next series, thank you. This was the one I'd been wanting to pick up for a while now. Kamudo is created by the same artist behind the Legend of Zelda manga, and it's their new original work set in a mythic fantasy world filled with demi-beings like dragons, wolves, leopards, and so many others. The story follows Kamuna, the first human ever born within the dragon tribe. Because he's half dragon and half something else entirely, he grows up struggling with identity, destiny, and belonging. At the same time, a prophecy warns of a turbulent new age, one that begins the moment Kamuna is born. His existence sparks fear, curiosity, and political tension across the land, and now he has to grow into a potential hero while figuring out who he is and what purpose he's meant to serve. I knew from the very first page that I was going to love this series. The art is absolutely stunning. If you've ever read the Zelda manga, especially Twilight Princess, you'll know exactly what I mean. This style is perfect for a fantasy world like this. Every demi-beast design feels unique, from their clothing, to their hair, to their silhouettes. It has this nostalgic 90s manga energy that I adore. Even the backgrounds, the world tree, the mountains, the landscapes, make the world feel alive and lived in. And the dragons, some of them are adorable, others radiate pure power. It's such a fun contrast. Story-wise, the series checks every box I want from a fantasy read. You've got deep mythos explaining how the world was created and where its power comes from, from, you've got a prophecy foretelling a dangerous new era, and you've got a child destined to shape the future. It's everything I look for in this genre. And yes, it includes some classic tropes: the jealous rival, the loyal friend, the buff warrior mentalist training the next generation, but honestly, I'm completely fine with that. Those tropes exist for a reason and they work. Right now there's only one volume out and it's a slow release series. I don't think volume 2 is coming out until later this year, but even with just this first volume, I'm already invested. All that being said, I cannot wait for volume 2. I'm really excited to see where this story goes and I have full confidence it's going to turn into something amazing. Our final series today is a bit of a cheat because technically I did watch some of these episodes when I was a kid, but clearly I had the completely wrong impression of it. And that series is Inuyasha. In my childhood memory, it was just characters running around, fighting random enemies, and Kagome getting kidnapped every other episode. Basically, I remembered it as a shoujo-leaning adventure, but wow, I was so wrong. For anyone unfamiliar, Inuyasha is created by the legendary Rumiko Takahashi, the mind behind Ranma, Urusei Yatsura, and so many other classics. It's a shonen adventure that blends action, romance, and Japanese folklore into a story about healing, identity, and the messy, beautiful process of growing alongside others. The story follows Kagome, a modern-day schoolgirl who's pulled into Japan's Sengoku era after falling into a well on her family's shrine's ground. There she meets Inuyasha, a half-demon sealed to a tree. When Kagome accidentally shatters the powerful Shinkon jewel, its shards scatter across the land, bound together by circumstance and by a magical necklace that forces Inuyasha to obey Kagame's iconic sit command. The two of them set out to recover the shards before demons and corrupted humans get their hands on them. Along the way, they meet a whole cast of colourful, unforgettable characters. Let's talk about the art first. I knew I already loved Takahashi's style, but seeing it here again reminded me why she's such a master. Her art is deceptively simple, clean, confident lines that make characters feel soft and approachable, but she uses sharp angles and bold strokes to bring intensity when it counts. The balance lets the series shift effortlessly between comedy, romance, and brutal demon battles without ever feeling inconsistent. And speaking of battles, I was genuinely surprised by how violent the manga is. I definitely don't remember the anime being this bloody, but that might have been due to TV censorship. The whole thing radiates late 90s nostalgia, and I love the contrast between the modern era and the Sengoku period. What shocked me most though was how proactive Kagome is. I expected to be the classic damsel, but she's not. She fights alongside Inuyasha, adapts quickly to being in the past, and doesn't waste time crying or panicking. She's funny, cute, fierce, and genuinely trying to protect both worlds. And Inuyasha himself has more depth than I remembered. He's loud and bratty, sure, but there's a lot going on beneath that. I'll admit, the first volume does feel a little bit Monster of the Week, with each arc focusing on a new creature holding a jewel shard, but this is a long series, so I'm curious to see how the structure evolves. Even so, I really enjoy this first volume, and I'm excited to keep reading this classic. So those are my thoughts on the manga you recommended to me, and honestly, what an amazing lineup. Some were series I've been meaning to start, while others genuinely surprised me. It just goes to show how many incredible stories are still out there waiting to be discovered. Thank you once again to everyone who voted. I truly appreciate all your support, and I'll catch you all in the next one.